Welcome back to another exciting episode of Stand Up Sit Down. On today's show, I had the hilarious Alycia Cooper. Stay tuned.
You are now tuned in to Black Hollywood Live. Stand up, sit down.
I go on and on. Can't understand how it lasts so long. I must have superpowers.
Okay.
225,000 hours.
Okay.
Get a calculator, do the math. I made 1,000 songs that made you move your ass.
There she is.
For the last 300 months, I made
There she is.
Me on the front, and they bump. Where you get your beats, I heard 93.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I can't complain.
We could, but
Right. You could, but it's like, what's the
nobody
point?
listening.
Right. How have you been?
I have been really good. I'm doing what I love, my stand-up comedy. I just started my podcast about 2 months ago. I'm enjoying that immensely. So thank you. So everything's good. I'm doing more acting and more auditions. I'm taking acting classes now, and every day is an adventure. So I can't complain.
Nice. So now you're working on honing another craft.
And the acting that has to do with comedies, of course, comes easier for me. The dramatic auditions are stressful. They want you to go places you might not feel like going.
Right.
But you got to bring it if you're going to get the job. So that's a challenge.
Yeah. So now let's take it all the way back.
Okay.
All right. We're gonna go back to you growing up.
Okay.
Okay. Because like around the age of 5 is when you started acting.
Yeah. My mother was at Howard University getting her bachelor's, and I would go to the children's theater.
Nice.
So yeah, and the funny thing about it is, starting at 5, there was a lot of other kids at 5 at the children's theater, so that wasn't uncharacteristic. The funny thing about it was, when I got to college freshman year, my freshman year roommate, her name is Carlin, I went back to the house, got a scrapbook. She was in the Howard University's Children's Theater with me. We in pictures together. Hadn't seen each other since then.
Look at that.
And ended up roommates in freshman year.
See, small world. When people say, Hollywood's small, I feel like there's other worlds that are just as small.
Just as small.
So what kind of, because I feel like people have these, kid actors and child actors they have this preconceived notion. So what type of kid were you? Were you mischievous? Were you the goody two shoes? Were you the mean girl?
I think I definitely wasn't the mean girl, because I was an only child.
Okay.
And as an only child, you have to be nice, or you won't have anybody to play with.
True.
Yeah. So, and I was precocious because I grew up with an older cousin who was 9 years older than me, and she was really smart-mouthed and got kicked out of the house. So, my mother, if you got kicked out of the house, you could stay with my mom. And so I grew up sounding 9 years older than I was. So I was, I sounded older than I was, and I knew things beyond. That's why I'm a comic, really, because I would watch all the comics with her. So I watched the Richard Pryor, snuck and listened to the Millie Jacksons with her.
Wow. Yeah.
Red Fox, Cosby, Paula Poundstone, Rita Rudner, all of them, George Carlin, so that's what I grew up listening to. So it wasn't a surprise later. I never thought about doing it as a career until I saw Def Jam.
Oh, wow.
So, because I hadn't really seen black people making a living at it, other than those few.
Right.
So we didn't really think of it as a viable career. And then Def Jam, you don't realize when somebody's on HBO, there's no language restrictions.
Yeah, you can just go for it.
You can just go. When you watch comedy on a network, it's neutered.
Right.
So it's mildly funny. It's amusing. It's,
Yeah.
But when you can say whatever you want to say with no, that's why we were hollering as loud as we were hollering, because, people they were able to be themselves.
Right.
And it looked like they were just talking off the top of their head to the layman.
Right.
But you don't realize they've been working this out on the road for 5 or 6 years before you saw it.
Yeah.
So you think you can do it.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me.
So like who on Def Jam, because who was the person that was like, okay, if Chris Tucker can do it, I can do it. Like who did it for you?
You know what? That almost sounds like if this person sucks that bad, I can do. You know what I'm saying?
No, not saying that Chris Tucker sucks.
You're not saying Chris Tucker sucks. It wasn't anybody like that. Like if that person, it was more like Bernie Mac was the one out of all the seasons that, kick ass. And he had them Bernie must have been broke. Them daggone jeans with all that writing and colors on it, and you 40-something. That was a bad day. But Bernie showed up and showed out. He exuded confidence. He was hilarious. He had the DJ working with him, kick ass and all that. And I mean, it was Bernie that was out of all the seasons and all the people that really stood out. Okay. It was everybody was funny. They didn't air you if you weren't funny. There was people who didn't air because they sucked. Yeah. So when you saw somebody, that means they had a good set. You don't realize everybody didn't have a good set because it looks like everybody did. Right. But Bernie was the standout for me. And of course Martin Lawrence as the host makes it look easy. Martin's from the same part of Maryland I'm from, Landover. And I always loved Martin. And I mean, just all the acts were so funny and so individual in their own way. No two acts were alike. Yeah. So I fell in love again with stand-up watching that.
Nice. So then what was like that first show? Like what were you like, okay, like I'm going to try this for the first time now. And what was that first show like?
My first show was at a motel in Maryland, Camp Springs, Maryland, called PJ's. Okay. And this was back in the day. This was like maybe 94, 95, where people dressed up to do stand-up in a bar. So, we used to dress up for everything, and that was still the time we dressed up. And I'm all dressed up with no material. But I don't realize it. I think I'm just going to go in there. I took my family with me. My cousin Karen is there. She brings her camcorder. And this is back in the day where the camcorder was a big, gigantic VHS tape on the side of the camera. So as soon as you hit eject, you can put that sucker right in. Right. Yeah. Very convenient, very practical. But she comes like she News Channel 8 with this big old camera and recorded me, and I mean just recorded me crashing and burning because I didn't have anything prepared because I didn't know that's what you were supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And it was terrible. It was terrible.
How long did you do?
I probably did about 6 minutes of silence.
So what did you say? Like what was the the plan was for you just go up there and just start talking?
I was supposed to start riffing in my mind, that was what I thought. But when you start crashing and burning, first you start sweating. Yeah. Then you start panicking. Mm-hmm. So what you do is you start repeating anything you've ever heard. So I told this horrible joke. If we ever find this VHS tape, I'm gonna burn it. I told this horrible joke about how, because Wheel of Fortune was still big at that time. And I said, your mother don't have no arms, and she had Wheel of Fortune spinning the wheel like this. And I stuck my foot out and said, big money, like I'm spinning the wheel with my foot. And more silence. Yeah. But sometimes silence is better than booze. So I'll take it. But I know my mother, my Aunt Barbara, I know they were like, please keep your day job. We sit there, we got a 2-drink minimum and you have nothing. Man. So, but I didn't understand that you're supposed to write and prepare. Right. But eventually I figured it out.
So that was like considered your first bomb too then? Like that was
your first bomb, right. All of that at the same time.
So then when did you get that there's actually like a method to this?
I had bombed a couple more times and then I stopped. So around the year, I moved to LA in 1998 to produce TV shows as I was working at BET in DC. And one of the other producers, we were doing a show called O Drama on BET. It was Kim Whitley, Vanessa Bell Calloway, and Mari Morrow were the hosts at the time. And we had our own shows to do. One of the producers, her name is Doris. She went on to be one of the executives of Martin Lawrence's film company, Run Tell That. At the time, Doris was one of the producers on the show with me and a couple other people. So she comes to me and she goes, you're going to be on this Friday show. Mind you, it's a Monday. Mm-hmm. And I said, on this Friday? She said, what are you talking about? I said, I got my own shows I'm working on. Well, I'm doing a show about the next big thing. I'm doing 3 actors, 3 rappers, and 3 comics or something. And I said, okay, well, that's nice. She said, well, you're booked as one of the comics. I said, Doris, I don't do comedy anymore. She said, well, you're the funniest person in the office. I said, well, how hard is that to be? Right. No, yeah, you're booked. So I went and got a book called The Comedy Bible by Judy Carter. Okay. And I started reading how to structure a joke. Because, I mean, it doesn't matter what writing you're doing. It all has a structure. Sitcom writing, film writing. You have to know what the structure is. And once I wrote some stuff, figuring out, okay, so this is how you structure a joke. that's when I went to the Ha Ha Cafe in North Hollywood and got somebody to put me up on like a Wednesday. And I mean, that's been the whole first year when you start out, because you have no confidence and you don't know what works and what doesn't. You have sweat rings under your arm.
Yeah.
And so I went up and I did some of the stuff that I thought would be funny, and I got a mild response, but it was better than the silence that I had been getting.
Right.
And Friday I went up and I taped the show, and the judges gave me a good response. And after that, because if they had given me a negative response, I'd have quit again. But they gave me a positive response and some encouragement. And so I kept working during the day, and I would do comedy at night after that.
Nice. So then, like, when did you feel that you kind of had like a little handle on this? So you're like, okay, like I can kind of, you know, hold court while I'm up here, and I'm not as sweaty as I was 6-7 months ago.
Well, it took a while. What started happening, I think, was booking the TV shows. You know, I did BT's Comicview, and then I did, I believe, Last Comic Standing.
Okay.
And then I said, okay, well, I'm getting better. I have, you know, something, because people are booking me on these shows. What ended up happening was, when you perform for large audiences and a bunch of cameras, when you go back into the clubs for 100 people, it's easy.
Yeah.
So the hardest part for me, I had already achieved, even though I didn't win or go very far in the contest. I had done something that was outside of my comfort zone, and I had gotten a good response from it. And I was like, okay, well, what I'm doing now is easier than what I've been doing.
Right.
And so that's when I felt like, well, let me keep going. I have a lot more writing to do, a lot more growing to do. And as long as I have a day job, my bills are paid.
Right.
But then in 2008, I decided to sort of get out of behind the scenes as I was working on reality shows. And it wasn't for me. And so I said, I'm going to try to do this full time. And that's what I've been doing since 2008.
Wow.
So.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, we all know that this happens. Hecklers. How do you deal with hecklers?
You know what? I've really been fortunate not to get many hecklers.
That's good.
The only time I've had a horrible heckling experience was an experience that was pretty customary for a lot of comedians. They would book this urban night at the Miami Improv. I think it was like a Wednesday or something. Nobody wanted to go, you know, because they would fly you in and put you up, and a car would take you around from, I think, like the West Palm Beach Improv, the Miami Improv, and it was a third one. And nobody wanted to go. So that should have been my sign.
It sounds nice, though.
Yeah, it sounds great. It's they're flying you in, they're paying you, they're carting you around. It sounds really good. And if you're not doing anything that week, I made the mistake of going.
Okay.
So, and it's out of 3 clubs, the other 2 are good.
Right.
It's that one that nobody wants to go for. So that was my heckle experience, because what happened at the Miami Improv was, it was really, really hood. The MC was really, really hood. So if you're not really, really hood, you're at a disadvantage. So you've got to make it up with you got to really be funny if you're not really hood.
Right.
So what happens is, the way that particular club is set up, in the back is complete darkness.
Okay.
There's no lights back there. So there's a section of people that come every week to sit in the back and give you pure hell. So they are just hollering stuff out from the darkness.
So you can't even see who's saying what.
You can't see who's saying what. You can't respond. At least if I can see you, I can say something about you.
Right.
But if I can't see you, it's like being punched by ghosts.
Right.
You know, so and I'm still not that seasoned at the time when I get this booking. So, I mean, they're interrupting the show. And you did 2, so I think I did like an 8 and a 10. The 8 went off without a hitch. I think I had a cousin come, and you know, the first show was good. That 10 o'clock, I mean, that was the worst heckle ever, because you end up having to leave the stage before you're supposed to leave the stage, because they've taken you out of your act. Wow. They've taken you out of your game. You've never experienced anything like that, so you don't even know how to properly respond. Wow. And that was the worst one.
But did you grow from it, though?
I don't know how you grow from that. I mean, I guess I grew maybe a thicker skin. But I mean, that's something that's not necessary to experience.
Do you remember some of the things that they just yelled out? Just something?
I don't remember, because this was maybe about 2009.
Okay, so
you know, it was a long time ago. But You know, I wasn't prepared. I think even now, I could probably do better in that same scenario.
Yeah.
You know, I have some stuff in my arsenal now. Because of that experience, I would, if I didn't, I would write some stuff to make sure I got it for this group in the back.
Yeah.
You know, so I would have some specialized material for them this time.
Just for them.
Right. You're not catching me slipping this
Yeah.
time. But nobody wants to go to work to fight.
Right.
You know, you don't want it to be that hard. I'm just here to entertain you. I'm not taking out a tumor. I'm not, you know,
Right.
curing cancer. We all here to have a good time, and I shouldn't have to fight that hard to entertain you.
Yeah.
You know, but now I saw why people didn't want to go. I was no longer unclear.
Do you think that female comedians have it harder than their male counterparts?
I do think that female comedians have it harder because of the perception. There's a perception that women aren't funny. I don't know who started this or, you know, why. They said Jerry Lewis said it, and, you know, people let him have it. And, you know, there's a lot of people who feel that way, and I don't understand why a gender would matter.
Right.
Like every male isn't funny.
True.
Every female isn't funny.
Yeah.
Every male isn't unfunny, and every female isn't unfunny. So I think everybody should just be judged on their merit. But I've heard people tell me that they've heard from, like, you know, they'll ask, well, why doesn't this particular club headline women? And one of the owners said, because the liquor sales are lower when the woman is the headliner. And I was like, what?
How does that correlate?
How does that correlate? So you a drunk, but you ain't a drunk tonight because I'm
Right.
a woman.
Right.
You know, so I don't know. If people don't want to work you, they will come up with a reason. They will come up with a reason. But I feel like funny is funny.
Yeah.
You know. And I've seen some very funny women, and I've seen some very unfunny men. So, you know, it's just, and comedy is so subjective.
True.
You know, you'll see one person falling out, and they see another person looking at them like, what you falling out for?
Right.
We had the same show, so you
Right.
know, there's no rhyme or reason for why somebody likes somebody and doesn't like somebody else.
Are there any jokes that are off limits to you?
You know what? I used to always say no to that question until I really sat back and thought about it. The only thing, and this is like in the last month, the only thing that I don't think I would joke about is vitiligo.
Okay.
You know, because you don't know how you get it. It's not hereditary.
Right,
You
it
just
just
wake
comes
up
out of
one
nowhere.
day, something on your elbow. You know, so I'm going to shut my trap. I'm going to shut my trap
But
on vitiligo.
Did you have some vitiligo jokes prior?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, you know, they said Michael Jackson had it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They
Right.
said it was confirmed in his autopsy, you know, because nobody wanted to believe it for whatever reason.
Right.
Everybody was like, Michael want to be white, you know. So, but they confirmed it in that man's autopsy, and nobody else in the Jackson family has it.
True.
You know, so I'm like, I'm gonna go ahead on and steer clear of that one. These people lightening their skin.
Yeah.
And tell them they got vitiligo and see how how quickly they start hollering and falling out. You gonna want that melanin back now.
Would you ever apologize for a joke or anything that you've said on stage?
No, I would never apologize because I don't say anything maliciously.
Okay.
You know, so there's no malicious intent. And I do talk about practically everything with vitiligo, and I don't do it maliciously.
Mm. So, I mean, has there ever been anyone who was just like, yo, like, what you said about da-da-da, like, was really offensive, and I need you to take it out of your set. Like, I'm not a fan anymore. Yeah, because you know how people on Twitter get on their soapbox, then it becomes this whole thing.
Right.
You know.
I mean, at the risk of sounding arrogant, which is not how I want to sound or how I mean to come across, luckily, when I say a controversial joke, it's so funny that I can get away with it.
Yeah.
You know, I write it in such a way that, say for instance, I'm talking about gays. I write it in such a way that even the gay community will laugh.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the way a good roast is supposed to be. If you watch the roast from the 70s, even the person being roasted and everybody else, they were enjoying it too.
Right.
You watch these new roasts, folks ain't enjoying this. You know, so
Right. It's not, because it's not like, I feel like the craftsmanship isn't
the
there,
same.
but, you know, it's a lot of, like, they were using oak back in the 70s, and that was a bunch of plywood going on, you know.
Right.
This isn't.
It's different. It's different. So I try to write it in a way that everybody can enjoy it. You know, when you watch like a Lisa Lampanelli, who I haven't seen since she lost the weight, one thing about Lisa is that Lisa was an equal opportunity offender. So she's a gay guy, Chinese dude, a Muslim girl, you know, so she just went around the room offending everybody. So how can you take that personally when everybody got slapped?
Right.
You know, well, people get mad, but why you only slapping my group? You know?
Yeah.
But when you done slapped every group and it's funny, that helps.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at jokes, I'm like, if there's a sexist joke, if there's a racist joke, you know what I mean? I'm like, listen, as long as it's funny.
As long as it's fun.
You know?
You saw the Flavor Flav roast?
I'm trying to remember. I don't know.
Out of all the roasts, because I love watching roasts, that's the funniest one to me out of all the roasts ever done on Comedy Central. And there was a joke that Lisa Lampanelli told, and I was like, you can't get mad because it's too funny.
Yeah.
So she said, Jimmy Kimmel. She said, black folks don't even know who you are because you come on after lights out.
It's terrible.
I'm like, we all in jail? No, none of us know Jimmy Kimmel.
It's terrible.
I couldn't even get mad because I was too busy laughing.
Yeah.
So if it's funny, it's fair game.
Yeah.
Because remember with the Michael Richards thing and the laughing, the reason that didn't work is because there was no punchline.
Right. Yeah, he just went crazy.
Yeah, he melted down and we all
yeah.
like, where's the punchline? And when it didn't come, you seem like a colossal Nazi.
Right.
When it doesn't
right.
come.
Well, and then because it was either Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock that said it, you know, from like a black man standpoint, it was like, yeah, that's a little, but then from like a comic standpoint, it's like, you're just having a bad set. You know what I mean? It's like, he was having a bad set, you know? What is your joke writing process like? Like, where do these ideas come from, and how do you get them all out?
Well, one, I like current events and politics, so some of this stuff writes itself, especially with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But the way I decide what I'm going to work on is it has to make me laugh first.
Yeah.
So if it makes me laugh, I'll either jot it down, depending on where I am, or I try to put it in my notes on my phone, or I'll try to voice record it if it's a certain way it needs to be delivered. But it all starts with something that made me laugh. And that's the nucleus of the joke. Because I've got to believe in it. Like, I've had people try to give me jokes, and I can't really deliver other people's stuff because I've got to believe it.
Right.
So it usually starts with me and what I find funny, and I just go from there.
Okay. And so then like how do you know when a joke is like TV ready, or it's like ready to be like, all right, like now I know that this is going to be something that I know works for sure that I can use on, you know.
Yeah, well, that just comes from the live audience, working it out in the clubs over months and months and months, and what response are you getting from it, and then you keep reworking it, rewriting it, tagging it, you know, so it just comes from beating a joke and what the audience's response is, because that's the best thing about the audience. They always let you know what's funny.
Right, yeah.
You know, so they let you know either through laughter or silence, or you know, hitting you with a cheese stick, whatever it is, they're going to let you know what's funny and what is not. So it just comes from working it out in the clubs and working it out all over the country. And what you try to do is work it out in a bunch of different places so you know it's not a fluke. So, and if you keep getting consistent laughter, you have a winner.
Yeah.
So you just put a bunch of those together in a row and you got a set.
Nice. And so now, you know, you told me earlier too that you wanted to start doing clean comedy more.
Yeah.
And so what are some of, like, for people who don't know, because, you know, there are people like Brian Regan, you know, as the first person that really comes to mind, really does like clean comedy and does like a fantastic job at it.
Right.
So like, what are probably some of like the challenging differences putting together a clean set versus just putting together like a regular, not just like a filthy set, but, you know, just like a normal set where you can just throw a bitch in or throw in a,
Yeah. Well, the thing is, first you have to find out, because each gig and when somebody's hiring you, you have to find out what their definition of clean is. Some people's clean is just not FMF. Like, I did a corporate show in Calabasas last Christmas, and a lady was like, we saw your stuff on YouTube. We thought it was hilarious. She saw a set where I actually was cursing. And she said, usually you don't get a corporate gig from a cussing set, but, you know, she really enjoyed it. She said, we were laughing out loud, and you can, you know, do all of that here. Just take out any Fs or MFs. And I said, okay, well, that's fair. Yeah. So that's considered clean. So, you know, so you have to find out from the person paying you what their definition of clean is, and it varies. You know, church clean, you can't even use innuendo. Right. Like, there was a guy who said, like a mug, and the pastor pulled him to the side. That's too close to MF. You know, I know what you were thinking. You had to be thinking MF to say mug. You know, so I was like, this is too much stress for me. One girl went into a church knowing she wasn't clean. They done cut the mic off on her. So
Have you done a church gig?
I have, and I didn't enjoy it.
No.
I didn't enjoy it because you're too in your head about, can I say mug? Can I say, and if I'm not enjoying it, it's not anything I'm going to keep pursuing. So I'm not ready for church yet. I'm going to hit that in my 80s when I'm trying to get closer to the Lord and get in heaven.
Get a little sanctified.
I try to get a little sanctified.
I did one church gig, but I was hosting, so it was easier. So like if something wasn't working, okay, so next person coming up, you know what I mean? Like, okay, all right, so
yeah.
But it was tough. It's one of those things to where, because like I have jokes that are just filthy, but they're funny, and I'm like, I can say this here, but I shouldn't.
Right.
Right.
And then you start going down the path and you realize I can't finish it. It's just too much stress.
Right.
And then the same people in the church looking at you, they doing all kinds of stuff when they leave that daggone church.
Exactly.
Like, oh no, he didn't just look at me like that, so it's too much stress. But the reason I like clean shows now is one, they pay better. Mm-hmm. And two, it's just a more pleasant night. Like if I'm on a clean show and say it's 4 of us, I don't have to hear 3,000 N-words, 40,000 FMFs. I don't have to hear the music suck my beehole, and I don't have to hear all that by the time I go up. It's just been a pleasant experience. The music has been pleasant. Yeah. The people in front of me have been pleasant. The audience is pleasant. And I can go up and be pleasant, because even if you're on a lineup in a comedy club and everybody's clean, 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 dirty than you, they've already changed the audience's, perception by going dirty right before you. Or say you got clean, 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 you're next, but the host goes up right before you and starts being dirty, talking about blowjobs and all that stuff. Now you're like, I gotta follow blowjobs and so you don't have to worry about that in a clean show. And it's just, I'm finding that maybe because I'm getting older, I'm enjoying that more.
That's good. And so you have a podcast.
Yes.
Right.
My podcast is called A Hot 10 1-0 with Alycia Cooper, and I interview the hottest comics for 10 minutes.
Nice.
Because people don't want to, I found that people don't want to really listen to a podcast for an hour.
I mean,
they looking to see the length and they gone on. Like some people have 2-hour podcasts.
Yeah, it's a long time.
And I'm like, who's got 2 hours? You compete with Netflix, Redbox, 500 other channels, satellite radio, and who's got 2 more hours? So, so I try to get them in and get them out. Plus, I can get some of the bigger names because, only 10 minutes?
Right.
I got 10 minutes. So that's how I've gotten. So I've gotten 2 winners of Last Comic Standing.
Nice.
Because I'm not asking for too much of their time.
Right.
So this Wednesday I have they drop every Wednesday 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and this Wednesday is Melanie Camacho. Next Wednesday is Alonzo Bowden.
Nice.
So
nice, yeah.
So it's a labor of love.
Funny,
and I'm enjoying
funny comics.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, Melanie, she's on tour right now, opening for Martin Lawrence. And Alonzo is just killing it everywhere. He won Last Comic Standing.
Yeah, and I think and he has a podcast out.
He does.
Now,
Yeah. So it's just I'm enjoying it. Just their stories, their lives, and how everybody's so different. Everybody's path is so different, and it's just that's the thing I like about the entertainment industry. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no one way.
Right.
And I love the creativity that everybody brings. The unique way that they do it.
Yeah. And now this is one thing that I'd like to ask comics, and especially people who've been doing it for a while, especially because we're in this new digital age, and so there's a lot of stuff that's online. There's a lot of stuff that was with the Vines, and then with the Instagram and stuff like that. And so some of these jokes are being stolen.
Right.
So what is your take on some internet comedians taking jokes that were crafted on stage by stand-up comedians and putting it on their social media and not giving the proper,
Yeah, that's the thing, though. If you're going to steal somebody's hard work, at least give them credit.
Right.
And if you're not going to give them credit, give them money. It's called ghostwriting, but give them something. Imagine somebody going into your bedroom every day snatching something. They took your watch off the dresser.
Right.
Then the next day they done took your chain. Then the next day, they took your favorite pair of skinny jeans. You know, the next day, they took your Gucci glasses. You know, give them something.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what they're doing when they take from you. This is your intellectual property. You took the time to think this out. You spent months crafting this, and you just come pluck it out.
Right.
You know, I just think it's the rudest thing. That's why a lot of people get into fights, because you're taking money out of people's pockets when you steal their intellectual property.
Yeah.
And at some point, in some way, you need to repay them with a credit. You know, just say, as Johnny Johnson said, and then do their stuff.
Yeah.
At least Johnny Johnson feeling like they being respected.
Right. Or tag them in the post, you know, or
Thank
something.
you, Johnny, for offering, for, you know, all the laughs. Thanks for all the something.
Right.
But I mean, just to go and just to come on now, that's mafia style.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
What would you say probably has been the biggest thing that you've learned in your career thus far?
Biggest thing that I've learned.
Yeah.
I've learned that life isn't fair.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see a whole lot of injustice on a minutely basis. And it's just, sometimes the best response is no response at all. You know, so I've learned, another thing that I've learned is you can do this stand-up comedy thing till you're 100 years old, and every time you get on stage, you're going to learn something new.
Yeah.
You know, so what I love about it is I can be 100 and still do comedy. Beyonce can't be 100 and give the formation to a show.
True.
You know,
She may have to tone it down a little bit.
Oh yeah, she gonna
pull out a stool.
Ooh, I mean, I love my favorite act. We just went to see New Edition at the Microsoft. They slowing down. They sweating, heart palpitation. They like they just dove out the deep end.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm so glad I don't have to do that. You know, to keep up, because all that jumping around. They ain't think about that when they was 15 jumping around.
Right.
You're going to be 45 at some point, and you're going to be barely jumping around. You're gonna
Knees going to give out.
Oh, they're going to be in a hover around the next one, just spinning around. I don't love her. Try to tell myself, from a hover around. You know, so that's the thing I love about this is there's no age limit.
That's good. What would you say has probably been the coolest thing that you've experienced?
Coolest thing that I've experienced.
You know, where you were like, I can't believe I'm doing this right now.
You know, I haven't had, like, I like when people have the great opportunity. I opened up for, you know, Chris Rock. You know, I've never really opened up for anybody huge. I've always wanted to open up for somebody huge. Never had the opportunity to do that. So I would have to say the next biggest thing for me would be going overseas and entertaining the troops.
Right.
You know, so that was fun because you don't know what to expect. You have language restrictions there too, but they're so appreciative that you came there.
Yeah.
You know, so that was a experience. We had 120-degree weather, and you know, so you get to go to so many different countries, and that's been exciting. You know, to travel to a lot of different places for free.
But what is that like? So like flying over to like war countries.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia. We've been to some places. Yeah.
But
well,
were you ever like, we could die?
I felt, for whatever reason, I felt a sense of calm. Like when we went to Saudi Arabia, the only time I got a little nervous was because, you know, women have pretty much no rights over there, and you couldn't do anything without a man. So we got to the airport and we had to wait because we couldn't hand over our airline tickets. And I was like, they must make sure women don't get to escape out this piece.
Right.
You can't even hand over your own airline tickets. We had to wait. And then they handed us 3 bags. It was 3 women. And we had hijabs and all kinds of stuff in the bag. Because they're like, if you go out in public, you got to cover your hair and all this stuff. I'm like, I got to do all that? I'm just working here. I'm going back home. But so I got a little bit nervous thinking, wow, like, is that serious?
Yeah.
You know, and the week that we were there, 2 women jumped in a car and drove. So they had made the paper. You saw the back of their hijab flying like Sister Act. And I said, boy, I hope they don't get in no trouble, you know. So that week was the week 2 women drove. They're not supposed to drive. And we just so happened to be there that week. And then we went around and saw some of the stuff. There's a place called Chop Chop Square where every Tuesday they do public beheadings.
Oh, my God.
And you ain't even do nothing that major, but your head gone. So... I was like, that would cut out a lot of crime in the U.S.
Wait, I mean, no, I mean, but like, did you watch it? Like,
No, that wasn't Tuesday.
Okay.
It wasn't Tuesday. I think it was like Friday.
Oh,
but we saw the place.
And it's every Tuesday.
Every
and it's just like
Tuesday,
a
public beheadings.
and people can just come and just watch.
It's a deterrent. Imagine taking your kid downtown to see a public beheading. They would do nothing wrong.
Yeah.
They wouldn't take a pack of bubble gum out the store.
But did they had like a
guillotine?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Every Tuesday, line them up. So line them up. So.
But they were good shows though.
The shows were good. The troops were good. Everything was good. We had a ball. The guys were appreciative. They laughed at the jokes, and it was a great experience. Would I do it today? I'm not sure if I would do it today, just because of everything that's going on right now.
Right.
It's starting to get crazy now. It's crazy right here now.
Yeah.
So I'm a little more squeamish now than I was then. But I'm glad we went to a lot of great places, met a lot of great people, saw a lot of things, and so that's been really, really interesting.
What's one thing that you want to like leave as a legacy? It's like when people look back at your career, they're like, man.
Well, I've done 4 comedy CDs you can get on iTunes, and but what I wanted to do was an hour-long special. I hope to one day get an opportunity to do my own hour-long special.
That's coming.
That's the kind of thing that I want to leave behind. My name is now on the wall at the world famous Comedy Store. So
how did that feel?
It felt great, because I've been hoping for. But you know what? What I've learned is just be quiet and do the work. Because I didn't, they said, oh, I think I got an email that said your name is going up this July, and I was like, wow, So sometimes when you're not banging on stuff and banging your chest and look at me, things happen anyway, because you don't know who's talking about you when you don't realize that they're talking about you. So that felt good, because one of my friends from college, she was here this last weekend, and she took a picture from the tour bus of my name on the wall. It's been a great location. So she put it on Facebook. So I realized that's going to be on that wall for centuries after I'm gone.
Yeah. As long as the building's still there.
Yeah. Don't sell that building.
Right.
It'll be a Barnes & Noble or something. I'm going to say, leave it on the wall at the Barnes & Noble. I earned this.
So for people who don't know, so, the comedy store, world famous comedy store in Hollywood, they put names of legendary comedians on their outside wall. And so like is it a ceremony? Like what happens when they paint your name? Because it's like the whole place is black, and then they write it in
white.
Yeah.
So it's a stark contrast. And what happens is, they'll just say your name's going up Sunday, and we're doing a Sunday show for the people they do it once a year in July.
Oh, okay.
So that particular group does a show that night. So they tell you, oh, come to the Comedy Store at 8 o'clock. We're doing the name show, and we all perform. So, and I think I know they used to put an article up, like a publicity kind of thing that would go into the, the paper, some paper, or maybe you can type it in now and find out who went up this past July. So they'll put something out into the media. They'll do a show of the people whose names just went up. And myself and my manager, Gwendolyn, we found out what time the guy was coming, and we went and got our own video.
Yeah.
As my name was with the A, the L, we got pictures and video just to commemorate that. But the funny thing was we were the only ones out there from this July. So, found out when exactly. I think it was like 2 p.m. that the guy was showing up. And later that night we performed, and that was the process.
Nice. So what does that mean? Does that mean you can just like go and just like bump anybody now?
No.
On the wall.
The bumping is like you got to be Chappelle, you're Eddie Griffin. You got to be at that level to start bumping. But what it means is there's a parking lot in the back. So whenever you're performing, you can go leave your keys and park in the back. Parking on Sunset is not happening.
Right.
So you can park for free.
Nice.
And you're in the rotation. So every Monday you call, you leave your availability for the week, and then they tell you which shows you're going to be on during the week. So you're in I was in the rotation already. So what that does now is it just means that you're on this wall, and that's part of your legacy as long as the club still stands.
Nice.
So it's almost like a way of them saying thank you for all that you've contributed to the club.
Right.
So, yeah. And they have a La Jolla location. I'll be headlining that in December. Comedy Store La Jolla. Those La Jolla audiences are off the chain.
Yeah.
I mean, standing ovations. They're just good. They're good. They're good laughers. They're smart. I love the Comedy Store La Jolla.
Do they put your name on the wall out there too?
No, they don't do that.
Twofer?
Yeah, it's not as big. It's not as big as that location. It's one room, and but it's a great experience right off the beach.
Oh, nice.
You know, so.
All right. So as we wrap up, you know, we have young comics that listen to this and that watch this, and there's people who think about getting into comedy, but they aren't sure if they want to do it or not. So, like, what piece of advice do you have for young comics and you have for people who
run? If this is something you truly want to do, study it. You know, find out who your comedic sensibilities align with. And study that person or those people. See what it is that they're doing, why they're doing it well. You know, and go to live comedy, sit in the back of the room. When somebody's bombing, see why they're bombing. When somebody's doing well, see why they're doing well. It's an art form.
Yeah.
Just like anything else. So study your craft. Try to be the best at it that way too. And take it seriously. People think comedy is just money in the bank. It's not. It takes a long time. Yeah. A long time for you to make money at this. A long time. Yeah. You know, some people are like, I can't believe I'm still not getting paid. Do you realize how many people in front of you still aren't getting paid? Yeah. So the thing is, comedy is about confidence. So keep getting on stage to build your confidence at the same time you're building an act. And then eventually everything will fall into place. Nice.
So where can people see you next?
See me next. Well, subscribe to my podcast, A Hot 10 10 with Alycia Cooper. And I'm leaving Wednesday. I'm going to Oklahoma to do the Looney Bin Comedy Club. Then I'll be at the Harrah's Reno, the Improv in Reno. Then I'll be headlining the Comedy Store La Jolla. And every year the day after Thanksgiving, I headline 2 shows in the at the Ice House in Pasadena. Nice. In the annex room. So if you guys want to do that, those sell out every year. Get your tickets now for my show at the Ice House the day after Thanksgiving. Bring the family. And both shows sell out, so you might want to get your tickets now for the Ice House. So, yeah, I'm just all over, a little bit everywhere. So check the Comedy Store lineup, and I'm there, or I'm at the Comedy and Magic Club in Hermosa Beach.
And where can people find you online?
Online, I'm on Facebook, Alycia Cooper. I'm on Instagram, Alycia Cooper 2, and I'm on Twitter, Alycia Cooper.
And every Wednesday at 10
a.m. Pacific Standard Time,
A Hot 10
drops a new episode.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this. This was a pleasure.
This was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of it. It was quick.
Well, you talking about these hours on podcasts? So let me condense it a little bit. But no, thank you. And because like I've met you online, but I haven't met you in person. So that's why this is like such of a joy.
Yeah, this was a joy for me too. And thank you.
Thank you.
Continued success.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for tuning in. Of course, you can find me all over the internet at the Nick Perdue. And until next time, we'll see you soon.
From executives Kevin Undergaro, Dario Christie, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio, Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in. The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.